Well, hey guys, tomorrow is opening day of muzzleloader season for deer here in southern Michigan, and I'm getting ready to inspect, basically going to R&R my muzzleloader, check it out, make sure everything's good to go. And I figured I'd just give you a quick rundown on how I R&R it, remove and reassemble it, and also a rough idea of how I clean it. First thing we do, this is the CVA Accura inline muzzleloader. First thing we do is take the forearm off. There's one flathead screw that holds the forearm in place. Just take that screw out. The forearm comes off. I got all my cleaning supplies out here just so you can see. Normally I wouldn't have everything out like this. Take the ramrod out, and this one, it extends. So we're going to go ahead and extend that. And the first thing I want to do is check to make sure the gun is unloaded. And to do that, that's a little awkward for the camera, but we're just going to put the ramrod down the barrel and check that mark that I put on there to make sure it's empty. Right there's my empty mark, so I know it's empty. Now here's my full mark, so I knew if it was sitting up here it would be loaded, but it's down in, so I know it's empty. So now we can pull that ramrod out, and then we're just going to break the action open. This breaks open just like a single shot shotgun, break action shotgun. Now we can set the stock and action aside, and what we need to do now is remove the breech plug. Now what I could do is just take this and put the flash hole up to a light and look down the barrel at that light, and I can see if the barrel's clear. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to remove the breech plug. It's pretty easy. Sometimes I can remove it by hand, but they give you this tool. So I just give that a little crank to loosen it. Just some threads. These are really fine threads, so it takes quite a bit to get it loose. Once we get that loose, we can pull that out. Now this has got anti-seize compound on the threads, so it can be removed easily. Since I'm not cleaning the rifle, I'm just going to set that aside, but I do want to inspect it by holding it up to the light and peering through there to make sure that that flash hole is clear. I can look at it through the light as well, and I can see that little pinhole in there, so I know it's clear. If it wasn't clear, I have this little flash hole pick, which is just a thin wire that I can clear out that flash hole with, and I keep this with me when I'm out hunting because I may need it in the field. I actually keep everything with me to completely remove and reassemble and clean this rifle in the field if I need to. It's pretty simple. Now that we've got that breech plug removed, we can check this through the light to see if it's clear and free of obstructions. I'm not quite sure how well that's going to show, but I can look right down through there and it should be nice and shiny. But what I'm going to do is run a patch through there to clean out any dust that's accumulated. The one other thing I can do with this rifle, I thought it was pretty neat, is I can take and remove this, which holds the firing pin in place. and it uses a flathead screwdriver as well. And most of this can be accessed using a knife as well. And I normally wouldn't do this, but I figured since I'm doing an R&R, I'll show you. That comes off, and I put some anti-seize on there as well, just to make sure it doesn't seize. And if I tip this, the firing pin and spring will come out, and I can inspect that for rust or anything that I might need to. Normally don't need to inspect that. Let me just put that back in. Now if I were really cleaning this, I would take that firing pin screw and the firing pin and everything, along with the breech plug, and stick it in a big mug of super hot, as hot as you can get it, boiling hot if possible, soapy water, and all I use is dish soap. Drop all these pieces in there and let them soak. I would eventually scrub those clean of all that old anti-seize with a toothbrush or any type of plastic brush. And the next thing I would do is, with this still full of hot water with the breech plug and everything in there, I would just sit this on the floor, and I would take my barrel and I'd stick it breech first into the hot soapy water, and then I would take my ramrod and a patch. Nice thing about a muzzleloader is it comes with its own cleaning rod as well, your ramrod, and just put that patch on there, run it down the barrel, and I just run it all the way down and just pull it up and down, and what that does is it creates a vacuum and it draws that hot water up inside the barrel, and it loosens up all that old powder residue and everything. And that's all I do to clean a muzzleloader, even my modern muzzleloader. Do that quite a few times, and then I would pull it out of there. And what I do is I take it in the bathroom and I hold it up to the faucet and let hot water run through there to clean out all that soap and stuff that's left. Apply new anti-seize to this, and check my barrel, make sure it's nice and clean and shiny inside. When you use really hot water, the other advantage is it will evaporate quicker. So you sit your barrel up like this, and all that water inside will evaporate. And then I would go ahead and run another patch through there with oil on it, and then I would keep running dry patches through until they came out dry and clear, because you don't want any excess oil or anything inside the barrel on this muzzleloader in particular. I'd apply new anti-seize to the breech plug, run it back in, and really you only need to do this hand tight. Big mistake some people make is they're worried that it's going to come loose or something, and it's not going to happen. But what I will do is I'll take this and just give it a little bit of that to make sure it's snug. Once that's done, I would go ahead and take my oily rag, and I just use any old oil or deer tallow, lard, and go over all these parts that aren't going to be exposed. They're going to be covered up by the action and the forearm. Make sure that's got all my greasy, salty fingerprints off of it. And without touching it, I would also lube the action if it requires it. Lock that back in place. Put the forearm back on. Again, we don't need to go crazy tightening it, just snug it up. Go ahead and collapse this ramrod again. This may seem a little awkward, but it's all because of the camera. I'm just trying to get good camera angles on this for you. Put the ramrod back in place and we're all done, ready to go. Crack her open. I'm going to go ahead and load it up now, and we'll be all ready for hunting in the morning. So let's go ahead and load her up. Remember, the thing you got to remember with this rifle is you got to extend that, or you're not going to, it's not going to work. Some ramrods aren't like that. So I'll just take one of these pre-measured volumes of powder, 100 grains. And again, I'm trying to do this for the camera, but just put that down the barrel. I usually give it a little tap just to level it out. Grab a bullet. I also have a bullet extractor, which is basically just a screw that you would screw into a bullet to yank it out of there if you had a misfire. But with this, the bullet has a plastic sleeve. Just goes on the end like that, and I can almost start it with my hand, but I'll go ahead and use the starter. Use the short one first, then the long one, then the ramrod. And I just want to take that down nice and snug with my hand, but I don't want to be tapping on it. And make sure that it meets my loaded mark. And I'm good to go. Now I just got to put a shotgun primer in the nipple, and she's ready to fire. But technically she's considered unloaded at this point until I put that shotgun primer in there. Then it's loaded. That's it. I'm all ready for deer season. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all the comments and support.